Welcome to the weekly, which is typically a little bit further down the week, given that we've got a Merseyside derby coming up and we've got bagfuls of content that we've done earlier this week with Matt and Les, and I know Pete's done more bits and pieces for us as well. If I'm trying not to sound depressed about this because we won last week, didn't we, against Bournemouth? We won. The women's team won at Anfield as well. I mean, I've got Si and I've got Pete with me here. Come to you first, Si. Do you feel any more optimistic about going to Anfield than you normally do?
Absolutely not. No, no. I was thinking about this before, Dave. I was in the shower before, and I was thinking these are the type of questions that um that's obviously going to get asked. And
Yeah, yeah.
I think, I mean, obviously, since I guess since we've got Beto in the team and we've had Calvert-Lewin back, we've looked a little bit of a different prospect to what we did right at the beginning of the season. Um, I think I wouldn't say our season's turned around, but I'd say I'm feeling a little bit better than I was sort of like before we had no strike, before we had Mope in the team, just Mope in the team. Do you know what I mean? So, but and I know that when coming up to the weekend, I know they concede and we create chances. However, all that aside, we could be going in to an Anfield derby having like an invincible-esque season, and I don't know what it is. It's not a happy hunting ground. It's like there is a hoodoo on the place, and I don't know. You know, I've supported Everton, all my life. I've been going to watch the matches since the early 90s. And I think out of all the times that we've gone to Anfield, there's only probably about four or five in those years that I can say that we've given it a fairly good account of ourselves, and probably should have come away with a result, or where we did come away with the results. Every other time, it's just like business as usual. We go in, we let the occasion get the better of us, and we never play the game, we never play to our strengths,
Yeah.
or very rarely we do anyway. The last time was two years ago under Ancelotti. Um, but it's it just seems it's like a Groundhog Day when we play Liverpool, and it's not
Mm.
just at Anfield. Obviously, we have our issues against them at Goodison as well, but maybe not as bad at Anfield. But it does seem very like Groundhog Day-ish, and you know, um, we like I say, we could be coming off the back of like an invincible-esque season, and we'd still be concerned about going to Anfield because we never really give a good account of ourselves.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, I'm not confident going into the match. Despite despite the fact that I think that they're not great defensively. We're a little bit better going forward than what we were. I just think it's. I'm not a betting man, but if I was, I'd put my
Yeah.
money on the shite.
I'd be behind the couch. Conversely, probably talking to the most optimistic Everton person I've ever met in my life here with Pete. Obviously, you were sitting on the cop last week, weren't you? Seeing a magnificent win for the women's team. Well, a pretty familiar win for the women's team when they go to Anfield, thankfully. Um, is this you feel? I mean, I'm not putting words in your mouth, but I like to think. Well, I say like to think, I would. I'd expect to think that you've got a more positive view than Si there. And before you carry on there, I'm much more leaning toward what Si said there. Just because of the place I mean, look, even the last time we won there, like he said, it was just a couple of years ago. None of our fans are in there because it was COVID. I mean, if there's not a sign that it's the ultimate worst place and hoodoo on a football club going to an away game, then there's not much more than that can explain it, really, is there?
Yeah, well, that's it. First of all, yeah, I'm still kind of riding the wave of last weekend's,
Yeah.
win by our girls. It was another great performance from them. I'm getting used to seeing good performances from our women's team when we go to Anfield. That's
Hmm.
that's three on the bounce. Three times we've gone there and we've won all three. So, and conversely, on the other end of the scale, I've never actually been in Anfield in person to see the men's team win. I've never seen it, so it is such a strange thing. I've gone into that derbies before in the past where I've actually felt confidence, which is always a bad thing for Evertonians,
Hmm.
letting confidence seep in. That's not the case for this weekend for me, to be honest with you. I think although I do feel that we may have turned a bit of a corner, barring the Luton game, obviously that was a terrible sort of 15-20 minutes for us. I think that we are playing a lot better. We've got a focal point up front now that we have people who can potentially put away those chances. I think Jack Harrison's been a big positive for us. Getting
Hmm.
Dwight McNeil back in the side is a big positive for us. Dominic Calvert-Lewin back to what looks like full fitness now as well is a huge bonus for us. But it's just going to that place. I hate it. I absolutely despise it. I was there last weekend, and honestly, I've felt dirty all week, Dave. Three showers a day and all that sort of thing to try and get the stench of the cop off me. It was actually weird, to be honest with you, actually being stood on there, because it was probably the first time in a long time where there was a good number of Scousers on there. So it was you know it was a good it was a good day. I say started off. There's actually a photo of me going around where I have this look of absolute utter disgust and disdain on my face. I was a lot happier by full time, but let's hope that it's the same tomorrow. But yeah,
Well,
it's hard to be overly optimistic. As I say, I've gone into into Anfield derbies in the past where actually Everton have been the form side and we've been playing really great football, like when we've had Lukaku and we've been scoring loads of goals and we've gone there and frozen. So I just hope that the players can put in a performance tomorrow and hopefully go toe to toe with them, get in the faces and
yeah.
don't just sit back and wait to be wait to be served our usual loss.
Well, you spot on with that, and I think Sai hinted at it as well. It's when you go there, and it's a horrible thing to say, isn't it? It's a hard thing for many clubs to admit, but we do absolutely bottle it when we go there. This time though, Sai, I'm hesitant to say it'll be a lot different, but Sean Dyche has gone there before with Burnley and got a result. If there's any manager within football that knows how to go somewhere and absolutely stink a game, and just make it like the worst game of football to watch, I'd go as far as saying that Sean Dyche should be the top of that list.
Yeah, possibly.
He's hard to watch at Anfield sometimes, isn't he?
Yeah, but I mean, I'll take. I don't care what kind of football is on show, as long as we're picking up points and we're getting the win. And people put it quite well before about like the performances and giving a good account of ourselves. And to be honest with you, if our lot tomorrow is to go and get beat, as long as we go and give a good account of ourselves and and as Pete says, don't roll over and hand them their annual 3 points against Everton, then I'll take something from that game, because don't get me wrong, Anfield's a tough place to go to at the best of times. You could be uh, Everton in the wrong end of the table, or City or Arsenal. Any team that goes to Anfield is going to struggle and is going to have concerns. So what I'm looking for tomorrow is a good performance where we go and play to our strengths and we try and put our game on against them, rather than just reacting to Liverpool football. You know what I mean? What I want to see is like for want of a better word, fight in a team. And it's very rare that we see that. Sometimes when we do go to Anfield, it's like we're rabbits caught in the headlights,
Mm.
and we never get going, and we never get our football going. And if Dyche goes there tomorrow and sets out a game plan, and we stick to it and we're rigid to it, and we try and make it work. If we're beat by the better team on the day, then of course it's going to hurt. It's going to piss us all off. But at least we can go, yeah. But we went. How often have we gone to Anfield and said, yeah, we're giving a good account of ourselves there? The only thing is I'd say sort of that a team to be tough to beat, that tenacity and stuff like that. I'm not really seeing it from a Sean Dyche Everton yet. Don't like my expectations of what Sean Dyche as a manager would have been before he came. A Sean Dyche Everton would have been before he came in last year, or sorry, earlier in the year. It's not really. I don't see it. I don't see a team tough to beat. I don't see him. Seeing a team that's really, solid, hard to break down defensively. Going to these places a bit like Moyes was in the early years at Everton. Defensive backs to the walls and hit them on the break, and coming away with a 1-0 or a 2-0 victory. I don't really see. That's what my sort of expectations of a Sean Dyche Everton were going to be, and I've not seen that, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I still don't really see an identity in our team. I can't really say this is the style of football that we play. It's quite vanilla at the moment, and I don't know if that's going to come later on down, in Dyche's reign or whatever, or if we're going to continue down the same path. But that's my only concern going into tomorrow about like the performance and stuff like that, and just that like the fact that we haven't really demonstrated that we're a tough nut to crack previously.
Would you agree with that, Pete?
Yeah, I mean, one of the performances that always sticks in my mind in terms of just grinding out the results and not necessarily making a stamp on the game at Anfield was the one, I think it was under Allardyce when we got I think Rooney scored the last like sort of a late penalty to get a 1-1 draw.
That's right. That was
I just
under
remember,
Allardyce, wasn't it?
yeah, and I just remember coming out of the Anfield Road and then walking through, bouncing through Stanley Park, singing, we never touched the ball. We drew the shite on a Sunday night and never touched the ball. I think we had about 12% possession, but somehow managed to get something out of the game. And I think, yeah, I mean, what's I saying there about in terms of the type of team that I thought we would be under Sean Dyche, that sort of hard to break down, ultra defensive. I don't think we have ended up being that type of side. So it'll be interesting how we do set up tomorrow. What I don't want to see is like against Arsenal. Although, to be fair, against Arsenal, we lost 1-0. A lot of teams will probably get played completely and utterly, annihilated by Arsenal this season. We only lost 1-0. I'd hate to be sat here tomorrow and in that same position where I'm so disappointed that we just haven't given anything in a sense of going forward. So I think it's about mixing it up. Also worth bearing in mind is that sometimes Everton look the most dangerous when we are on the counter-attack. We do counter-attack pretty well. We saw it against Brighton last season away from home with that incredible result. I sometimes feel that with certain players in that side, we can actually hit teams on the break. So maybe it will be a case of soaking up as much pressure as possible, trying to keep that clean sheet for as long as possible, and potentially hitting them on the break. It is a difficult one. Again, it depends on what sort of formation he plays and who he plays, whether he brings Garner Gay back in, because I think Garner Gay, he has his games for me where you probably is tomorrow maybe the type of game that you'd want him in there. But having said that, James Garner in the middle was an outstanding performer against Bournemouth, and I feel that our midfield is a lot more balanced when you've got James Garner in the middle as opposed to Garner Gay. But having said that, I wouldn't be surprised if Dyche did throw Garner Gay back in, because he can, do the breaking up the play and all that sort of thing. It's going to be an interesting one, but certainly, I mean, we all know that the type of quality that they do have, unfortunately, in their side. So, we're going to have to be our very best to keep them out. But yeah, the other thing to bear in mind as well is that they are shaky at the back, and we can hurt them if we have the confidence in ourselves to actually go at them and put them under pressure. They're not the same Liverpool. They don't have that back line isn't as solid as it used to be. So it is an interesting one. But for me, as I say, it's all about not letting an early goal go in, keeping our heads, let the atmosphere die down a bit, because they will be coming out the traps. We just need to ride that storm, and then hopefully we can then start making our stamp in the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think when we go there sometimes, I think their pre-form sort of it's sort of it's there before the game starts for us, and there's a lot of thought to go through that. It's been the mental side of it. I think all three of us would agree that the mental side of this football club, our football club, I think that's sort of the theme of what we've spoken about since we started. That we have ourselves beaten before we actually arrived there. I'm really intrigued with Dyche here, because I don't get the impression with him, even though like we've had a really poor start to the season. Little things seem to be getting somewhat better. Win away at Brentford, win at home to Bournemouth, starting to slowly climb the table. I think if you put that to one side and see what Dyche talks about every week on his press conferences, there's a lot of motivation towards the attitudes of players, and I mean, it's quite boring what he ends up talking about, and it tends to be exactly the same. But when you take that in just the individual context of a Premier League game at Anfield, that is the kind of thing I think might well embrace a lot of our players, thinking that, well, do you know what? We should go there and try and enjoy this. Maybe not enjoy is the wrong word, but we should go there and try and thrive at one of the most intimidating grounds that there is in football, as sad as it is to say. And also, I mean, you look at their season so far, it's not been what you typically feel when you go to Anfield, is it? They haven't been invincible like they have been in seasons gone by. The year they won the league, for example, it's not that Liverpool, is it? Or am I just tempting fate with that?
No, I think it's fair to say that I think they've started better than what I thought they would do, in all honesty. But they do have the frailties, and that's that's something that teams have to capitalize on, and that's something that we have to capitalize on.
Mm.
So and that's that's the game, isn't it? That's essentially Dyche's job when he goes tomorrow is to set us up in a way that takes advantage of their frailties. But Klopp's doing exactly the same. We'll be looking at us, and analysing our frailties as well. And they have the home field advantage. So, we have to factor that in. But I think like as Pete says, if you go in, if you keep a clean sheet for the, as long as you can and try and kill a crowd, and maybe have this a little bit of that like anti-football sort of thing, and park the bus as Mourinho famously did a couple of years ago, and frustrate the crowd, and then when the team starts to get desperate, they sort of like start playing into our hands. But it is it a lot of it is psychological, as you alluded to there before, and I don't know. It's really been hard to kind of pinpoint where the issue has been in that psychology of how we approach the game, because over the years we've had lots of managers come and have a crack at Anfield, and we had Martinez, who really played an open and expansive approach in an
Like
Anfield
Silver
derby.
as well. Silver did the
Yeah,
same. That was the last game, wasn't it, as well?
yeah, I'm certainly in Martinez's. We got absolutely turned over, and yeah, it really is a fine line between sort of being aware of the game and what it means to the fan base, but also not playing the occasion and not getting pulled into all that sort of the circus that comes with a Merseyside derby build. And I think maybe what you were saying as well about the changes that Dyche has made, and a lot of what he says in the press conferences can be about attitudes and stuff like that, can be a little bit boring, and maybe that's not such a bad thing, to be honest with you, if it's something that is being drilled into the players every day. That will start to stick. If the players buy into sort of his outlook, his approach, that will start to stick. And maybe that is, maybe we're expecting a little bit too much from anyone really. I think we've seen the troubles that we've had over the last 10 years, I'd say, with different managers coming in with different play styles and philosophies, and we've really struggled to adapt when those managers have gone, and it's kind of led us to be in the situation that we're in. And you know, I think Ancelotti is obviously, you need to put him aside because he's a world-class manager and he done excellent with us. But everyone else that's come in has really struggled, and maybe we're like, our expectations are, when a manager comes in, that's it, that's the corner's turn, and we'll bomb on now, but that's not been the case. And maybe, our expectations need to be lowered a little bit. And what we're seeing with Dyche is baby steps, little steps going forward. So the derby tomorrow might actually be a really good indicator as to, how where we've come in the last, when was our last game against them at Anfield? It should be a good indicator to see, what the kind of sort of philosophies he's instilled in the players, and we'll see whether whether the occasion does get the better of them.
Just before we finish, well, I've got a couple of things to mention just before we finish. But the next thing with this derby, how do you set this up, Pete? Is it batten down the hatches? Is it get our 10 outfield players behind the ball as soon as we possibly can, and maybe try and hoof one up and try and don't know, nick them over a long ball or in a set piece? Because that traditionally, let's be honest, and it's a really sad thing to say, but that seems to be what we've had to revert to in order to not let them completely rip us apart. Because when you've got players still, Salah's there, they've got players who can still do that. They've got a couple of new kids as well who look really exciting for them, as painful as it is to say. Do you start as defensively as possible? 5 at the back, a load of defensive midfield players, and maybe Calvert-Lewin up front on his own. Try and hoof it up to him and maybe get one of the lads close to him, like a Harrison or a Decore, who he's played as a 10 on most occasions. Is that the only thing we can hope for here?
I mean, I personally wouldn't go for the 5 at the back. I'd still go for a back 4. But I think that the game, as in most games, is won and lost in midfield, and I think that midfield area is vital for us. As I say, I personally wouldn't change that midfield. I wouldn't take James Garner out of that middle, because I think Amadou Onana has got a big task ahead of him tomorrow. And I think with that extra responsibility, I think we've seen the best of him. There's been a lot of times since he signed last season that Amadou Onana has flattered to deceive. But I think,
what, Peter, just before you finish on him, and sorry to interrupt you on him, but I've had, he's been like Marmite for me personally, but I've had a lot of criticism when I've said this on social media, but also a lot of people have supported what I said. I don't know what you guys think of him, but just on you first, Pete, with him. I think he's flattered to deceive. I think it's very easy when a club buys a player for almost their record transfer fee, and he comes in, and when he does a decent pass, it's like you rave what he's done much more than you would if anybody else did it. If you get what I mean, people are desperate for him to play that well, to perform that well, to do individual, inspirational things during a game, and I just don't see it from him. I've yet to see it from him. I can see talent in him, but when I'm sitting there thinking, "Wow, the best game I've seen him play is for Belgium against Azerbaijan," what are we looking at here? And then also the other things that add to that is look at the team in which he's trying to succeed at. There's a little bit of that goes into him not being able to perform as well as he wants. He's a bit of an enigma to me at the moment. What are your thoughts on him?
Well, I'd agree with that, but I think one of the one thing I would say is that the best performances I've seen from Amadou Onana is when Gana Gueye isn't on the pitch. I almost feel that those two just trip over each other's feet. I think they get in the way of each other. I think Onana always seems unclear as to what his role exactly is when Gana Gueye is on the pitch, because I just think that Gana is, I mean, we all know that his deficiencies in terms of when he's actually got possession of the football. He's very good at breaking up play. He will play the simple pass, but the amount of times you see him caught in possession, or he has that lapse in concentration and he gives the ball away in a really dangerous area. I actually think that Amadou Onana performs a lot better when he's given that extra responsibility, playing just in front of the back 4, where he can play as a box-to-box rather than almost being like another player in the middle without a specified role. So as I say, if Gana Gueye doesn't play tomorrow, Amadou Onana has got a huge role to play tomorrow. And if he can step up, and if he wants to go to the very top, and if he sees himself as, you know, a potential world-class player, and we keep hearing this thing about how he's, you know, he's this, that, the other. Well, I want to see it. He's got to prove it, and he's got to step up in games like tomorrow. There's a lad who plays for Liverpool now with the number 8 on his back, whose name I can't even begin to pronounce. Who's absolutely flying. What's his name? I can't even remember I can't even say his name. But anyway,
Just begins with an S.
Amadou Onana. Yeah, it begins with an S, and it's dead long, and I cannot say his name. So him, Amadou Onana's got to do a job on him tomorrow. Because I think that's where the game is won and lost. We obviously know about Liverpool's attacking quality, but I think Everton, as I say, as much as I'd love to say we should go out and just attack them, we've seen in the past that doing that is so naive, and it can really open us up at the back. And I just don't see that being the right way forward. As I say, I see our best chance, and I don't mean just sit back and lump it for the whole game. Try and get on the ball when we can. But it is all about just keeping it tight and trying to hit them on the break. But as I say, I'm a bit more confident in being able to play that way now that we've got Dominic Calvert-Lewin, now we've got Jack Harrison, and now we've got Dwight McNeil, because we know that those three in particular have got a goal in them for one, but also they can counter very quickly. They can get the ball up the pitch. We don't necessarily have to just lump it. They will be able to carry the ball, and they will be able to cause problems on the counter attack. So it's an interesting one. It'd be interesting to see what he does at right back as well, because I feel that Ashley Young has been found out a lot this season so far.
He certainly can't take a set piece, that, or a corner.
Well, yeah, he's definitely off set pieces, isn't he? So, but again, I think that would be an area that Liverpool will try and exploit. I think a lot of their play will be coming down our right-hand side, their left-hand side. I think that is a crucial area for us as well.
Yeah,
so
Salah will be rubbing his hands there, won't he?
Yeah, well, even if they've got that Diaz as well, who's a dangerous player. Gakpo as well. He's
McAllister as well. Yeah,
McAllister. Yeah, again, it's all about how we deal with them, and then how we then counter that. I don't think we can go there and expect to dominate possession or dominate the game, but certainly there are things we can do to counter it, to frustrate them, and then hopefully hit them on the break, or get play off set pieces and things like that. Basically, just like a traditional Everton performance, but hopefully we'll get a win this time.
Shai, quick couple of minutes left, mate. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, especially about an honour as well. I think it's some really, really valid points about where he fits in the team. I think what's been overlooked as well is how you accommodate James Garner in there.
Yeah.
And because obviously when we've had Garner Gay and an Honour in the middle, James Garner's kind of been utilised on, out wide a little bit, and that's not really the best use. Yeah. And when you have, sort of like a central midfield pair in the middle, and not like your dogs of war, there's an expectation of one of them being a bit more creative, and if Garner Gay's being that ultra defensive player, and not the sort of the responsibility of the creativity has gone to an honour, and that doesn't seem to be his game. As Pete said there, he seems to be thriving a little bit more when he has more of a defensive responsibilities, and I kind of thought that was his game when he did originally come to us. So bringing James Garner into the midfield, because we do lack creativity. As much as the XG says that we create opportunities, I still think that we still tend to be very one or two dimensionally going forward, and we've not really had a player for a while put the foot on the ball and pick out passes. But James Garner's been since he's come back from injury, he's been excellent, and certainly this season, in the last few games, he's really grown, and I think we need to start looking at players like him and going, right, we could, we can't use him out on the wings. He's not a jack of all trades. We need to be almost not. I'm not going to say like building a squad around them, but we need to start accommodating these players in their best roles, rather than saying, "Oh, can you just go and do a job on the right wing for us?" On a consistent basis. The odd time here or there, if he needs to fill in, for substitution, injury, whatever, suspension, that's fine. But you know what, our best performances tend to be, I think, when he's in the centre and he's creating opportunities.
Yeah, I mean, I think with both you there, it's going there with trepidation, isn't it? Because on the one hand, every time I've felt in the last few years is just don't go there and humiliate yourself, which we have done for most of the time. But you know, it's like you go there and get a nil draw, you frustrate them. I think the joy you take from it, sadly, is well, you've pissed them off more than we are. And it still feels very much that. I'm not going to ask you lads for predictions here because we could embarrass all of ourselves in that, couldn't we? But let's hope for, well, at least not coming away from that dreaded place with a loss. And hope we continue the momentum that we started getting against Bournemouth as we continue our season. Thanks so much for chatting on this, Si and Pete.
Cheers, Dave.
All
Nice
right,
one,
boys.
Dave.
And then
Cheers,
no doubt
Dave.
we'll have post match after that. We will also have mailbag as well, which hopefully keeps everyone with a smiley face before they go over to Anfield at 12:30 on Saturday afternoon. Thanks for speaking to us, and up the toffees.